Hi, this is Judy. I'm from Fox Cities Quilt Company, and this is Sunday from the Sewing Room. So last time I did a YouTube video about pressing to the dark and nesting seams, and I had a lot of questions, so I wanted to talk to you about pressing again. So a lot of people press their seams open, and that's what we were always taught when we took home economics and we made that obligatory peasant top in high school. We always pressed the seams open. But in quilting, I would say that I press the seams open maybe less than 2% of the time, and I want to show you why. So here is a piece that I have already put together, light and dark. I've got my 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I have pressed the seams open. So you can see that the pink is going to the pink and the green is going to the green. And then if I pull on this, you will be able to see the stitches kind of pulling apart. So a lot of quilters believe that, and I do as well, that if you press the seams open, it makes the seam just a little weaker. So, because you can tell when I am pulling on this, and I'm not pulling on this hard, you can start seeing the stitches through there. So, and then there is a matter of pressing versus ironing. So when we are quilting, we want to press. We don't want to iron. It's not like Dad's shirts and we got to get all of those wrinkles out. If you do a lot of ironing as opposed to pressing, you're going to make your seams a little wonky, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I also get a lot of questions about irons, and that's a personal preference too. I have tried the really expensive ones and they end up leaking on me as well. And I've tried the super cheap ones, and it seems like it doesn't matter which kind I use. I replace them all anyway within a year and a half or so anyway. All right, so let me talk to you about pressing versus ironing. When you're pressing, you're basically just laying your iron on top of your fabric, and you don't want to be moving it around back and forth a lot. And I'm going to show you why. Most of the time when we iron, some people, you're often tempted to iron it from the back because you can see where you're pressing it to, and so I'm going to show you how that looks when you do iron it from the back. And this is me ironing. You see where I'm using a lot of pressure, and I'm moving the iron around a lot. And let me show you the front of what I just ironed. So now I have this little tiny pleat in here because I've ironed it from the back. And this is what you do not want. So I don't have a pleat here, but I do have a little pleat on this side. And what that will do is now it will throw off your quilt and your block won't be square. And if you do that a number of times, nothing will ever be square, and that's not what you want. So this is ironing. Now let's talk about pressing. So when I press, I want to press to the dark, and I'm going to lay this on here, and I'm just going to set that seam. Okay, and what that does is it gives it some heat, and those fibers just mold right around that thread and then I'm going to take my fingers and I'm going to finger press this open, and then I am going to come along here and I am just going to press this right open. What happens then is I have a really nice straight seam. I don't have any pleats at all, and I haven't made this wonky by moving my iron all over. Now I am using steam. Steam is a personal preference as well. I like steam because I know that I'm going to press. If you find that you're an ironer, you want to use a dry iron, but again, keep in mind there's a difference between pressing versus ironing. So, and then let me show you that one more time. I am going to set the seam with my iron. Okay, then I want to finger press this open, and then I want to iron it or press it, I should say, from the top. And now we have a really nice, strong seam, and we've pressed to the dark. So the other reason that you want to press to the dark is so that you can avoid shadowing. And what that means is if you didn't have an absolute perfect seam and say there's a little bit of green hanging over here on this one and you press it to the pink, you may very well end up with a little tiny dark or green line across your fabric. It depends on the fabric. So that's the other reason that we press to the dark. And now you're going to ask yourself, well, Judy, last week you showed us how to nest the seams, and now you want me to press to the dark. Well, how do I do that if I have a 4 patch? And if I press this one to the dark this way and this to the dark this way, I got this big lump. Well, you do. And let me show you how to take care of that. So in your seam allowance with your 4 patches or anything else, you have 2 or 3 little stitches. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove those stitches. And what that will do is it will allow me to butterfly this seam open. Let me take them out on the back. And I know this is kind of putsy, but what it does is it gives you really nice flat seams. So I've taken those out. I'm going to set my seam. And I'm going to press this to the dark. And then I'm going to press this to the dark. And I'm going to go over on this side. And because I've taken that out now, I can finger press this open and I will have a nice flat seam on the back. And you can see that is really nice and flat and everything is nested nicely. So this is what we call pressing versus ironing and why we press to the dark. Thank you for coming and we hope to see you at the shop. Bye-bye.